Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how to use the mastery system in Schoology, uh, and why, like in this intro video or this intro part, I'm just going to explain why you would want to do this, give you a purpose for it, okay? So the purpose would be, and this has happened to me over the course of many years, where a client has come to me and the client requests something. They go, well, I need a poster for my classroom, okay? And then I have 50 students in a classroom, and I'm not sure which student might be capable of that, because over the course of time I know that they have used the poster maker, they have used the software to develop posters, but in the course of 2 seconds I might forget that, okay? There's no doubt about it. I might be in the heat of battle and I don't remember Janie using the poster printer, and I need somebody right away. Okay, so I open up my Schoology, I look under Mastery, and I can see that Janie has used the poster printer about 12 times. Awesome, Janie's kind of pretty good. She's also shown mastery over it, because she's, out of those 12 times, she's got it 100%, like 8 to 10 times. Okay, and you can set up rules, and I'll show you how that works in the video. That's the purpose of this. You can definitely show the student that they are a master in things, and you as an instructor know who your go-to people are in your classroom. It's an amazing concept. It's changed a lot. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's move on. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to put standards into Schoology. Alright, let me guide you on a path to organization. Draw.io is a great way to organize your thinking process while you're doing this. So Draw.io, google.com, it's a Google app. If you're unfamiliar with Google Apps, you just go to google.com and then go to Drive. You can go to New, More, and there's all these mores. And if you don't have diagrams.net, you can connect with more apps and get diagrams.net. That's a very helpful program when you're doing all this, because you can kind of look at simplification. Alright. Sweet. So let's say we have a category called math. Okay? And in that category, I have something that I want students to know. I want students to use a ruler and practice with it. So this is my practice skill. Okay? And if I know, as an adult, if you practice over and over again using the same tool, you become pretty savvy at the tool, and you'll run into problems where you'll have to measure things at a 16th, an 1/8, a quarter, half, and 3/4. Okay? So that's just simple. Alright, enter standards. Now we'll have some technical standards that are written in heavy educator jargon. So the heavy educator jargon probably wouldn't be understood by the student at all. And nowhere in here was anything about a ruler, but I did find one. Identify whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. Okay? I can easily explain this. I can easily explain this one. I would have a hard time explaining to the student what they learned here. What did you learn today? I used a ruler today. That's easy to understand. Okay, so that's your first mission, is try to organize it so that you know that you have categories, subcategories, and then the finite stuff that you know fit into this. What do they learn when they do this over and over again? So that's what this stuff is. It fits here. Cool. Now, how do you fit this into Schoology so that if little Jimmy uses a ruler over and again, he gains mastery? Okay, I'll show you how that works. Alright, so I have jcisd.schoology.com or whatever Schoology that you're using, in case I'm using this video for other places. Go to courses, and we're going to make a course to kind of play around in, and you can always export this into your course next year or wherever you're doing. So I would highly suggest when you're doing this organization, do it in a class that you're not in and then import it in. So I'll show you that part. You would go to My Courses, and you would click on the usually there's an add course, create course. Doesn't matter what you call this. I'm going to call it beta course. Doesn't matter what section you give. Doesn't matter this too much. It doesn't matter this one either, but I'm going to give it. Now, this is the one that matters. Whatever system that you're using, you use the current school year. Especially if you're using this video that has a PowerSchool Schoology integration. Okay? Great. Alright, now you need students. You probably have members of your organization, and you can pick on them. You don't have to tell them this, and you can grade them as students. And they're adults and they don't have FERPA, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go to members, add members. And I'm going to pick somebody I know that won't care about this. So I promise you that I will not wreck your GPA, Richard. Cool. So now I have a student. And now I have a little area that I can play around in over and over again until I get used to using Schoology. Alright, so I'm going to set up like 3 very simple assignments. These would look a lot more complex later on, but they're just to show you how this all works. So under materials, I would go add assignment. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Zoom in. There we go. Yeah. So now materials, add materials, add assignment. I'm going to do something related to my field. But I'm sure because I used ruler, there's something kind of relatable there. All right, categories. Nice. So this is something you set up at the beginning of the year, but I'm just going to share with you a couple categories. So create new category. Lab. Usually lab and employability. But these categories are set up at the beginning of the year through PowerSchool too. So this is just a play area. This one, since it's in a play area not integrated with PowerSchool right now, this won't matter. You can call it vegetable creme brulee or whatever you want. Alright, so I'm going to hit create. Add assignment. We'll call this poster. And I'll make another one. Sure, trifle. All right. Now, if you had this going on forever and always, it would get kind of messy. So this video is about, I guess, a lot about everything, but I would say that this would have to be organized at some point. And I organize stuff like this. Week 1. So, or I like this one. Week 1, M1. That's a good one. Then I just have to tell the students what that means. So you can drag these into here if you want. So if you like organization through time, this is a great way to do it. Alright, now we have a basic 3 little things to play with. Let's go on. Alright, now we have this. Let's go into resources. We're going to add a learning objective. I'll share with you some of mine, just for fun. So, for example, I might have photography. Okay? A lot of people know photography. So when they get done with something, they could say, I can take an exposed photo. So if they do that over and over and over again, I can no doubt say, well, they took it 15 times, they exposed it 6 out of 15, and yeah, they can do that. I can crop a photo. So these are written in I cans. That way when they can start thinking, oh, yeah, I can do that. Cool. So start thinking the I can now. Oh, video editing. I can export a video as an MPEG-4. I can add audio. So you can add folders just like I did before, and then you can add subfolders or sub-ideas into those folders. So I'm going to delete this one, and you'll notice that I won't be able to delete it probably. Oh, nope. So one crux that you have to know, because at some point this got tied into something, you will not be able to delete these. Okay? At least I haven't found a way to do that. You can rename them, however. So I can go in and edit them, and I can totally change the rules. So it doesn't really matter if you delete them or not. You can always rename them. So be careful. Because this one, this resource land, actually plays dominance over all your other courses. Cool. So let's go back down to learning objectives. I put a folder in there called math, and I'll add another one in here just for fun. And that's where you would type this in and hit create. Usually what I'll do is I'll put this in student voice, and then I'll put this in, try to explain it to an adult voice. Okay, now let's tie this into our lessons. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to courses. I'll point out you really can't screw this up too bad, so feel free to play. I think I kind of put that as a big word, dominance. So feel free to play in this area too. You can't really screw this up. You can always rename things. I've goofed this up a few times too in the past 8 years that I've used Schoology, so it's all right. It's always forgiven. Now, let's go to courses. I'm going to go to my beta course. I got these 3. So let's go, and now anytime they make a poster, so they got to make a poster, they got to measure it out, they got to like figure all that out in the software, they got to be able to definitely use a ruler, they got to be able to cut it, they got all kinds of crazy things that they do in order to produce this poster. The one is using a ruler. Okay, so let's go into edit. And we'll go down here and say learning objective. Well, I got a good one. Align it. I got a custom learning objective. No, I've not been able to rename this. So just letting you know this is not renameable. These are not renameable either, but it falls under personal. And now I have all the ones that I've made. Let's go to math. I can use a ruler. Student can use a ruler to measure a variety of products. Bam. Let's save that. Okay, let's do that with the other ones. You can see now that it popped up down here. Oh yeah, another way you can get into this is if you go into the assignment and you can go into here and hit edit. That's another way to get to this place. Alright, now I would kind of review just to make sure that everything is tied in, because you can see that these two showed up, but this one did not. That is a nice feature, by the way, because you can really see what's going on here. Nice. All right, now in Mastery, you can see that my colleague has, I can use a ruler, and I can set up some rules here. So let's say it's above 50%. He nailed that assignment. It looks really good. Okay. 51% means he's met it and exceeds it at 75 and 100. You can set these rules wherever you like. Okay. And I'll give you an example. If I use a hammer 120 times, obviously at, I would say, a 25% minimum over the course of an entire year, I get pretty savvy at using a hammer. Okay, I learn. Might stub my finger a little bit, but I learn. So it's some things that repeat over and over 1,000 times, you might want to set those a little bit smaller as the minimum, because the maximum is so large. Cool. Oops, I'm going to set this back to 50% here. All right, let's grade Rick. Let's go to Gradebook. So I'll show you two different ways to do this. This is the first way, and because the teacher might want to just give them points. Okay. Points would be, okay, I got a business card done. I graded it. I gave him 100 points. This one, he didn't do so well here. And maybe not so good here. Now it would have to explain to this student why they didn't do so well. And that is what I'm going to show you next. Because this world I struggled with for years. And man, the world of points, I'll never go back to that, ever. But there are some teachers, bless your soul, that teach this way. So here's points, and this is how it works. And now that I have this, I can now go to Mastery. And you can see that they have a 34% average over the course of 3 assignments, because it shows 3. And they have achieved mastery over those 3. Because in mastery setting, mastery meets the accept at least once. Now I know that should be a little higher. I have 3, so I'm going to put 3 there. There we go. So they haven't got their little star. He has to still work on that one. This looks really cool at the end, by the way, once you get it all done. And you can start seeing what student you can put on a certain job or work with a certain client. Cool. Now I'm going to show you the other way of doing this, just in case you want to look at it a different way. Alright, I'll show you an example of this before I lead you down this path. So in this case I have business cards and a list of things they do for these business cards. So I can take an exposed photo. Was it exposed? Was it not exposed? Was it cropped? Was it not cropped? So these are things that fall under this assignment that are yes and no's that the student can easily read and understand. So when they get it wrong, they don't have to ask what they got wrong. Okay? If I mark a no here, they might ask what cropping means, which is a different story altogether, but they don't take personal offense because after the first few weeks, they know they can just read these statements to know what's wrong. Okay? They don't have to constantly ask. And they are liberated when they don't have to ask. They don't want to ask, to be honest with you. I don't feel they want to ask. And keep this very simple. I could take a photo with a that is sharp in the area that is the main focus, and then put it in a little bit higher jargon. There's a stack of 200 business cards in the photo provided. Okay? Now this one right here wouldn't be a mastery thing, right? Because not all assignments would require that they have 200. I can crop a photo, however, would. I would like them to know that and show mastery over it. Okay, so what is this magical land? This is Rubrics. So let's go into our course and develop a rubric. And then tie it into mastery. This is advanced stuff. This is good stuff. Alright, so let's go to grade setup. Let's go to rubrics. And let's add rubric. The lesson is business card. I will lose all these things because, again, explaining that you are a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1 or a 0 is hard. Explaining that you got an action done, however, 1 or a 0, not so tough. Okay, so that's how you add. You can add categories to days long by hitting the plus, or you can minus them using the X. I don't need to type anything in here because actually I have my learning objectives that I wrote out already. So this button right here goes back to these. Let's go to personal, and I will find something that is repeated over and over again. In that case, they are using the cutter. I can cut out a product to the correct size using the large cutter. If that wasn't the right size, they get a no. Cool. I teach software that's called InDesign. And by doing that assignment, I do create pages. So I can incorporate that skill in here. Now, the finite stuff. That's where you can add your custom one. That's called a criteria. So let's say I have a custom one. I can use this top one at the top or just hit the button. Student handed in 200 cards. Nice. And you can organize these all you want. Okay. So can I understand those? Yes. I'm going to hit create. Now I have my first rubric, and now I'll tie that into my assignment. Let's go to business card. Let's go to the edit button. So I could leave this here. We'll call this maybe a technical standard that is applied, that is not graded. It's just an ambient. I could leave it there if I wanted to, but I'm going to change my scale from numeric to business card. Okay, and now I got this. And you can see that it dominated this down here. It also made this really neat grading scale thing that the students can see and understand what is required. Oh, so powerful. Okay, cool. So let's go to Gradebook and now Gradebook. Unfortunately, there's something already in place, so I have to get rid of this score by clearing the override. Okay. Clear override, save. There we go. That's only because I showed you the first world first. Now I have assignment that's 4 points, and they get a point for each thing. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to say, well, yes, they handed it in. There was 200 of them. The student packaged it. Yes. Was it cut out correctly? Yes. Since the product is actually done, they had to have done this in order to actually get it done, so yes. All right, now let's go back to mastery. So I can see how many times they've used a paper cutter now. I can see how many times they've used InDesign to create pages. There's only one assignment tied into that. There's 2 assignments tied into ruler. And certainly I could add that to the overall rubric. Nice, right? Especially if you're running a drill press, 15 to 20 times, at least you can keep track of how many times that student ran that drill press this way. And if they use it 3 times, they get a little star. Cool. So a lot of OCD organization, really. It's fun. You just kind of think of this as a game character that you're building skills with. That's how I do it anyway. Video game character, building skills. What skills do they have? What machines do they use? Yada, yada, yada. I'll point out this tool again because, man, that's really helped me do this organization thing. And know that you probably will make mistakes, but it's all right. It's fun. If you have a Power School Schoology integration, something that you should know is when you, let's say, have grades in place, and then you go and to learning objective, and let's go to math. If I change anything here, it affects the grades. Okay? All right. If I go, and especially if I go into rubrics, if I change any of this, let's say I add in, I'm like, well, you know what? I should add one more in here. I missed this. I missed something. I should add one more in here. There's already a grade in place. You'll notice that it's now worth 5 points, but since you already graded it, it only has 4 points there. So now you have to go back and click this 1,000 times. So play in this little world a lot before you go exporting it to the other world. I'll show you how to export too. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to show you is how to export, and I'm going to do that in a test course. And I would highly suggest you maybe do this too. So I'm going to call this an alpha class. Again, try to keep out of your class until you have practiced enough of this that you feel confident. Undergraduate, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to this year. Cool. So I got alpha and beta. Let's go back to beta. Alright, now I'll show you a couple things that I've learned when exporting. Let's say I go and get caught up in time. Well, I know exactly 3 years out. I know teachers that are like this. They know 3 years ahead where they know that it's going to fall on this date and this time and all that good stuff. Again, what a wonderful mind. So you can see that there are dates in here, 5/22, etc. and so forth. And over here, this week 1 M1, I might know that date too. Let's say I go to edit, and I know a start and end time for that one. We'll go here. Oop. And then an end date of here. Cool. So now I know the start and end date of this whole folder. Sweet. So now I can go and export this. I can say copy to courses. And there's my alpha class. I'm actually going to put it in a folder called none because it's already organized. The more organized that you are here, the more organized you will be later on. There are some advanced settings here just to show you that you can change the due dates. Notice they are blank. Cool. So let's go to my alpha class now. Okay. The alpha class, when I page down, notice that this date stuck. I'll go into poster. Go back. Let's go to edit on that one. This date did not stick. So that's one of the things that you should know, that in the long run what you're going to have to do is redate all these things. So don't work too much about time, is what I'm trying to show you. It also makes it so that it falls outside of a category because this alpha class doesn't have the category lab in it. So you have to redo all your connections with lab. The period usually sticks, the M6, and the rubric usually sticks. In this case it did not, but it did carry it over. Oh, because that was poster. Yeah, that's why. Let's go to this one. So here we go. So this is business card, and you can see the rubric did stick in there. And it copied the rubric. If you go to grade setup and go to rubrics, you have all your rubrics, and it did copy it over from your beta class. Okay, so that is how you duplicate things over. I would practice breaking these a few times. Like, what happens if I add a student in here, grade them, and destroy a rubric? Okay, what happens? What's that look like? You know, play around, break things. Cool. So I think that's all I have for you as far as, you know, mastery in Schoology. The rest is just practice over and over again and making mistakes. But yeah, good times. I hope you enjoyed.